That's all.
Are there any corrections to the minutes?
Any questions?
I wasn't here, so.
It doesn't appear to have shown in the packet here. Let me see here. Oh, there they are. Thank you. No comments or corrections from the January 15th Planning Commission minutes?
Any corrections?
No.
No?
Okay, is there a motion?
Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Yeah, they're not included. No. We'll continue on to the regular agenda.
Take the
Call the
vote.
question is to vote on the approval of the minutes.
Yes.
Aye.
Oh,
All in favor?
all in favor? Thank you.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Public.
So moved and approved. The regular agenda, we have a public hearing on PLN 190072 use permit. Owners Suncoast Organic Bakery and Nut House. Applicant David and Lisa Jensen. Do we have staff?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Presentation?
We will let our staff planner introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Ariel.
I turned it off. Turn it on. There we go.
There we go. Hi, I'm Ariel Goodspeed, Assistant Planner with the county. Today I'll be presenting Suncoast Organic Bakery Use Permit, County File Number PLN 190072, located at 62310 Southside Road. So today we're going to discuss the location of the proposed project, the project description, some background of how it came to be, the site development and the development plan timeline, CEQA determination, land use consistency with the general plan and agricultural productive zoning for the site, significant conditions, and staff's recommendation. So Suncoast Organic Bakery is located south of Hollister and west of Tres Pinos along Southside Road. This is an aerial photo of the project, and it's a good representation of the existing facilities located there already. So the existing operations include of a retail and sit-down bakery venue and restaurant. The applicant started with a rural home enterprise in 2009, county file number 0933, and that's where they built their commercial kitchen, which they used to make their baked goods and olive oil that they then sold at farmers market. Over the years, customers began to stop by the property in order to pick up their favorite baked goods, and along the way, the applicant ended up opening 2 days a week for part-time hours at the property for the public. The proposed operations include expansion of beer production and distribution, patio and dining, and outdoor gathering areas, gift shop, farm-to-table banquets, beer and wine tasting, various public and private gatherings, and event activities that may include acoustic or amplified music. So this is the site plan. It's on the top is a picture of existing entrance. In the center is the existing parking, and on the right is the existing exit. So I'm going to go over the developments in 4 phases, and I'll go over the existing structures and proposed structures at this point, and then I'll continue on to the operations further. So in green is phase 1. H, G, and F is the existing bakery, commercial kitchen, and public restroom. I is the existing patio for the bakery, and E is currently a pole barn that's going to be the new pilot brewery. Phase 2, as indicated in blue, includes the proposed beer garden patio. As you can see, the letter U is going to be the patio area. S is an 8x10 structure that's going to be the bar for the beer garden, and T is another 8x10 structure that's going to be 2 additional ADA bathrooms. Phase 3, as indicated in purple, is going to have the following. K is an existing barn that will be converted into a gift shop. Letter V and number 26 is going to be a 20-foot by 60-foot shaded structure with outdoor seating for private farm-to-table dinners and other types of events. 18 is going to be the additional overflow parking, 43 spots for the event parking. W is going to be a carport for agricultural equipment. Phase 4, as indicated in red on the site plan, is going to have the following. J is going to be the commercial kitchen expansion. J is a barn, and then it'll be expanded. The gray shaded will all be included. L is a current barn that will be turned into a brew house with no additional seating. So as far as the development plan timeline, phase 1 is proposed to start immediately. It is going to bring into compliance Suncoast Organic bakery operations that has outgrown its rural home enterprise permit due to Suncoast's success. It's also going to include the startup of Suncoast Nut House brew production and distribution in the pilot brewery that's indicated in the picture, and some additional ADA improvements, per building code requirements. The current and existing occupancy is 50, so that won't be changing. Phase 2 is proposed to start within the first year, and it is going to include the beer garden. This is a concept photo of somewhat the idea of what it will look like. Patio area, and then a bar you can walk to. It is only going to expand occupancy to 60. Phase 3 is proposed to occur within the first 2 years. Within that is as discussed, the gift shop and the shade structure and seating for farm-to-table dinners and private events, the carport for the additional farm equipment, and the additional parking. Now, the occupancy, although it is jumping up to 120, that is only for when the bakery and brewery is closed and they're having their private events. Otherwise, normal operations will remain as phase 2, which is 60. In phase 4, which is proposed to happen anywhere from 5 to 10 years, is going to be the new brew house and the commercial kitchen expansion. There's no additional seating in the brew house, and this phase is really going to be contingent on the success of phases 1 through 3 for the business. Staff found that this project is categorically exempt per SEQA, per a combination of findings of existing facilities, section 15301, conversion of small structures, section 15303, minor alterations to land, section 15304, and normal operations of facilities for public gatherings, section 15323. So in addition, the proposed use achieves and accomplishes several of the general plan's goals and priorities, including agricultural diversification and agricultural support services. In addition, we found that it was properly located within the wine and hospitality priority area. And finally, it was consistent with agricultural productive zoning, such as commercial recreational use and permanent stand for sale of agricultural products. So staff would like to discuss some significant conditions that came out of our public noticing process and comments that we received by phone and letter from neighbors. The neighbors' concerns had to do with two main points. One was noise and the other was traffic. And this was mainly in relation to the Phase 3 and the larger events that would be happening at the property. So in response to these concerns, the county worked with both the applicant, the neighbors, and also the Board of Supervisor for this district, and came to these two significant conditions. So the first condition of approval for noise was to not extend amplified music past 6 p.m. through the winter months of November through April and 8 p.m. through the summer months of May through October, listed in the resolution provided to you, number 5, conformity with plan. Now, the staff did want to make a note that the current ordinance for noise is that it is till 10 p.m. all throughout the year, as long as it meets decibel requirements. So this condition is going to exceed what the current ordinance for noise is at this time. The other condition of approval of note was the concern for traffic, since there and during those large events. So we were going to provide traffic control and directing measures for Phase 3 private events during periods prior to the event start time and arrival of customers, and the end time of the event and departure of customers for those larger events that exceed 50 customers. You can find that condition marked as number 10. The staff and the applicant believe that by adding these additional conditions of approval, we have been able to mitigate the concerns of the neighbors. In conclusion, staff recommends that the Planning Commission review the staff report and review the draft staff resolution, which include findings and condition of approval. Staff further recommends that the Planning Commission make the findings included in the resolution and adopt the resolution to approve use permit county file number PLN 190072, subject to the conditions of approval found in the resolution. Thank you for your time this evening. Does Madam Chair or fellow commissioners have any other additional questions or clarifications that I can assist with at this time?
Through the chair,
Commissioners?
Through the chair, I did have one quick question. With the two conditions set forth with noise and traffic, are these based on any particular phase, or would that take effect immediately?
So the noise that was conditioned for this use permit, So it'd be for all phases. And then the traffic, as described, was specifically for large events, 50 customers or more.
Thank you.
Any additional questions?
And all of the, Ariel, the entry and exit areas
Yes.
are adequately taken care of?
Yes. So I don't know if this is. Let me go to my aerial photo. No. So the entrance that's paved. So that is that's adequate. So we're having that as the main entrance, and then looping around to the right or east part of the property is going to be the exit. This aerial photo doesn't show that existing driveway that's put in place. This picture was prior. But let me go to, if you can see. So if you see over to the right, there's an existing gravel drive there already. It is 20 feet wide, which meets fire standards for safety. So that will be the fire entrance. And what is conditioned is that the approach will need to be paved in order to meet both Public Works and Fire's standards. Just the approach, not the entire drive.
Beautiful.
Is there any other questions?
Commissioners?
And we would note that the applicant is here, and if you're willing or desiring to, you can make a presentation of your project or speak to the microphone.
They have speaker
Oh, they're
cards.
they're the applicant? Yes. Oh, great.
Mhm.
Thank you very much.
So, I guess really what we want to, really the push to expand the Suncoast realm, I guess, with what we're trying to do is just the big response that we've had from our friends, customers, family, and so forth with what we've been doing. I think we've had multiple projects going for the last few years with building our house and so forth, but and we've been talking about a brewery, and I've been brewing for at least 4 or 5 years now, and so with this expansion, it's only going to help. It's going to really help us. I mean, we're business. We're supporting our family and so forth off 2 days worth of income, and 2 days worth of volume with our bakery business. And so when we this has just been kind of a dream come true. A lot of times we hear about driving and everyone with the traffic and so forth. My traffic is running into Cottontails on the way to the bakery, and so and it's always a great feeling when you have our customers. It's kind of like Cheers. We all know the old bar where people always know your name. They come in, and we have lots of our customers that are here today, and then it's just continued to grow. And I guess the last thing I would say to this is we've got kind of a little piece of heaven here that we want to be able to share with the community. You go out there on an evening and you have you order your sandwich, or you get your pizza, or you get your bread and so forth, just sitting back on the patio, enjoying the sun coming down and just the view that we have out on the back patio. We have Wi-Fi in the building, but you know what? Part of our service to our customers is that you guys can come out to the bakery and really disconnect from Wi-Fi, disconnect from the politics and everything, and just enjoy your family and enjoy a bagel, or excuse me, a croissant, enjoy a sandwich, and just relax. So that's, I think, probably the biggest thing that we have going for us with the bakery is just that. You have that opportunity, and everyone tells me that this is Hollister's hidden secret or San Benito's County's hidden secret. And we want to maintain it, and it's not something like we're looking to, it's something we're looking to share. So I think that's all I have for right now until comments.
Can we add that to the conditions of approval?
Oh. Oh, no Wi-Fi?
No, the ambiance
Oh,
and the hidden
absolutely.
secret
That's
and
exactly
the
what
good
we're-
food.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. If you
que-
guys don't like your food, you come talk to me.
Through the chair to the applicant, how many employees do you currently have, and are you planning on hiring on more employees as the business expands? And do you have a rough estimate or what you think the economic benefit to the county is with your business and what it will be?
So when you talk economic benefit, the total volume back to the county with total sales,
Correct.
well, I would well, we know what the bakery is right now with 2 days worth of bit volume, and that volume would probably is pushing close to $400,000. So when we talk about employee count and so forth, you're talking that we right now we have one full-time person that's working with Lisa. We have one person full-time working with Lisa, and then we've got 3 part-time people, including my son. And then we have, additionally, this is all a family business, so it's not just the people that are helping. Then we have my sister-in-law, my mother-in-law, Gary. Everyone's doing their part to make this function work. So it's, as we proceed, the brewery side of the business, I don't see, there'll probably be an additional person that's gonna help me. And a lot of this is gonna be as that portion of the business grows. We will, obviously, with the containers that we bring in, are gonna be, if you've been to Fieldwork Brewery out in Monterey, they've done a really nice job of dressing those up. And if you were to Google all the various container little brew, they've done a really neat job of making those things look very nice. Additional people that we'll probably bring on, I think at points during an event, we might have up to 12 to 13 people. Additionally, with the brewery is going to allow us to start off small. With the ABC Brewery 23 license, that is going to allow us to potentially open up, potentially open up 6 different tap rooms that's included with the brewery license. With that said, obviously, it all depends on growth. And as far as help in the brewery, ideally it's just going to be myself, and then at one point I'll probably have another person help me, and then from that point on, it really depends. I mean, the whole idea when we started this business was not so much to be, was the whole idea was not to work so much, but as our customers know, we're working our tails off, and I've worked all my life. I've had 3 jobs, and this is one of the few jobs that you wake up in the morning and you got stuff to do. You want to get started. You got to get your day going. You go home. You have a beer and you're ready to go to sleep. So there's no when they talk about baking is a hard job, and it's a lot of work, and but you know what, we're having a great time with it, and we enjoy it, and we enjoy being able to provide product to the customer.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any further comments from the commissioners? Questions? Do you have any public comment?
There's a total of 6 for this item. Brian DeCarly?
Good evening. How we doing?
Good.
Good. I like to hear a little back at times. This is my first meeting here, so thank you for having me. My name is Brian DeCarly. I live here in town. I have a wife, and I have a 7-year-old, and I have a 5-year-old at home. I just wanted to call and speak on a couple minutes as the timer's running down already, on the benefit that Suncoast has offered and provided my family. And I know one of the questions that just came up was what are some of the economic benefits of having Suncoast out there. And I'll tell you, kind of big picture, it doesn't take long to understand that when you're looking at the pictures, you know, the property's out in Timbuktu. It's not on, you know, and so you actually got to find it. And so if they're looking to expand and do different things, they got to be doing a couple things right. In my opinion, what they're doing out there really is kind of what Hollister was. And hopefully we can kind of hold on to that, because Hollister's kind of getting away from us a little bit with a lot of the big businesses, big companies coming in, a lot of the commuters coming in. But what they've offered out there is a family-run business that makes everybody feel welcomed. And my kids are 7 and 5, and I believe Suncoast has been out there and working for 8 years. So they've been out there for all 7 and 5, and they're going to continue to go out there. And it's the relationships they've had with me and my family, but also as I'm sitting there at the table, it's the relationships that they're providing everybody else at all the other tables. It's a really unique situation. Heck, they built their own house out there, you know, so everything is from their hands. And what they're doing out there is very special, and to be honest with you, I'm quite jealous, because I would love to pull the trigger and do something independently. But I don't have the means, nor do I have the people to put the PowerPoints together and go through all these different scenarios to assure these votes get through. But what I would like to say is, again, I think this is a kind of a point-to business for this town, and really we need more of them. The economic benefits, I think they're going to kind of really go way past what they're doing out there, because heck, whenever I bring in my parents and my family members and everybody from out of town, the one place I do take them is out there. And chances are they're going to go out there and they're going to explore some other parts of our county and our city as well. So those are just kind of different components that I know really tie into this whole thing, and it really make this a very, very special place. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, and David Jensen, did you want to add?
Can I defer mine till the end?
I'll move it to the back. Lisa Jensen?
Hello. Well, my husband really put it in perspective of what we started out with just my dad and myself, and we had no idea this would turn out the way it did. In 2008, I moved back from Minnesota, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I worked at the police academy with my mom, and my dad was selling olive oil in Mountain View Farmers Market, and he said I wanted to stay available for my son. And he was in first grade, and he was going to Southside School. And I decided what we're going to do with this old barn that we had. And my dad's like, what if I build you a bakery? And I laughed. I never baked a loaf of bread in my life. And I loved baking and cooking as a child. But the lady at the farmer's market in Mountain View said that they needed a bakery. So he decided to build a bakery. We thought it would take 6 months, and it took 3 years. And I was up on top of that roof ripping off the 100-year-old shingles, and 3 years later, we started selling at the farmer's market in Mountain View. Little by little, people started finding out that we were baking bread, and they'd honk their horn at our gate, and we would let them in and buy some bread. And make a long story short, at the farmer's market, one day we got rained out, and I put on Facebook that we were going to sell bread at the bakery because we had like 1,000 loaves of bread and we had no other place to sell it. And our community came together, and they came to the barn, and they bought out of our crates in the middle of our bakery. And I turned to David and I said, what if we don't have to drive to Mountain View? What if we could sell here? And that's how this all started. 3.5 months later, I told the Mountain View Farmers Market we couldn't do both, and I think we're going to be quitting. And we took the chance on the community to be able to buy the bread here locally. It turned out, and here we are this many years later, after we started I think we opened 2011. Anyway, I have a quite a good following on Facebook and social media, and they're pretty loyal. And this is just a stack full of people that made comments on our expansion. And I appreciate every single person that comes out to the bakery. And they just like Brian, Carly, and Kevin here, and I'll see a lot of our customers, and they are like family. So I hope that it gets approved and continued success, that we can be open a little bit more that for the community, and a little bit more room. But we are very respectful of our neighbors, and we have never in the past tried to be not respectful. I don't know if anybody wanted to take a look at
We can take
any of the comments.
Thank you.
Okay, and Raymond Green? Raymond?
Good evening, Commission. May I speak?
Yes, please.
My name is Raymond Creech. I am a neighbor to the facility there at 6400 Vineyard Estates, right at the top of that little map, exactly across the street from the facility. I appreciate all the words of comfort from the participants that come out to that. I've participated in that as well, and it's a good little business that we had here and still is. I'm here tonight just to speak of the notification process that went on with this. We received notice last Wednesday, a week ago, on this process. And it was one page, one paragraph explaining this detail. Today, we get this 13-page report and the staff's report on that. So I'd like to address a couple things in that report. On page 2 of this, it says, whereas county staff accessed the proposal to use and distributed plan to responsible county and peer agencies for review and comment. That went out last week, and again, it was one paragraph on this program that we now learn has a 5 to 10 year plan in effect. Another thing in here, whereas the applicant proposal is to bring into compliance all Sunkist operations under current operations. So that suggests that maybe that it's not in compliance currently. Thirdly, as adverse effects, no adverse effects have been observed in the last 10 years of operation. And honestly, and I live right across the street, there are no adverse effects. It's a great little operation. And I live right above it, but believe me, I live right above that, and I have hearing aids, and I can hear people talk on the road down below. I can. So one of our issues here is the noise issue. So what I would like to say is that there are people involved in this, and I propose that the commission not review this and approve it tonight, is to continue it on for next week, because this 14-page report and your report needs to be evaluated by the customers and the occupants around there. There are 8 neighbors in the immediate area around that, and we're very concerned, extremely concerned about the amplified music part of it. The city is extremely aware of other venues and that event and the ongoing problems that still exist with those venues past their hours and the operations. So with that, I respectfully ask the commission to postpone the approval on this until the next meeting, giving residents a chance to analyze this information. It's detailed information that was not available to us.
Can you repeat when you received all the information?
One more time.
When did you receive all
Last
of the
Wednesday.
information? Last Wednesday?
Last Wednesday.
You
And on
received everything
Thursday
in your
morning-
hand?
Thursday morning, I called Ariel to see if there was any other information available. I said that this really doesn't say anything, and if we want to challenge this, we have to pay. We have to pay for the hearing on that. That's what the information came out.
Mhm.
Is that how we're going to treat the people?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Barry Schaffner?
That's a week.
Jerry Shockmill. I too am a neighbor, and I'm concerned about the noise. Like you said, it's beautiful out there. You come home from work, you sit in the backyard, you can hear the birds. It's quiet, it's nice. I'm worried how many events is going to be there. Is it, an every weekend thing? And then the other thing is the road. That road from the bakery to Tres Pinos is bad. I mean, it's full of potholes. It's got peanut butter for patches. And having 50 cars drive on that thing every weekend, that's one of my major concerns too. Was there environmental impact done? And how many parties or how many events is going to happen? So that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin Stopper?
Good evening, Kevin Stopper, District 4. I just wanted to voice my support for Suncoast. I'm a regular customer there, and the economic impact on the county is great, and it is not great on my wallet. I just wanted to say that they're a great addition to the county. I've been going there since Gary was in his trailer over there by Mansmith's on Airline Highway when they decided to stop going to Mountain View. I think some of the issues that the other folks are bringing up are valid, but I also know that the Jensens are very responsible and will make every effort to, this is not going to be a Metallica concert venue by any means. They're going to be a nice, quiet neighbor, I'm sure. It's the way that it seems to be laid out is it's going to be contained, and 8 o'clock has been negotiated. I think that's a pretty good thing. It's not going to go on until 10 o'clock. I don't live there, so I don't know. I understand you guys are up top. You probably hear things. And concerning Southside Road, I sit on the Measure G Oversight Committee, and that road will be fixed. It's going to take a little bit, but it's going to be fixed. It's on the priority list for being fixed. I just wanted, you're dealing with good people here, and I know that whatever comes of the decision from the Planning Commission, you're going to be working with good people, and they're going to do what they have to do to make everything work with their neighbors as well as their business. So I just wanted to put that in there. Thank you.
Thank you.
David Jensen?
All right. Well, addressing these issues, I know that we've had a couple conversations with the planning department. We actually met, the last one we met with Ariel, we met with one of the engineers that's, I know that I met him when we had the slide on Southside Road. So I do know that, as Kevin mentioned, that it's already in the works as far as the planning and the road improvements to Southside Road. That's been in the works ever since, I think, the washout of the hillside on Southside. And I think, from my understanding, that's supposed to be addressed, or it's just a matter of, it's supposed to be addressed by the summertime, is what I'm understanding. As far as the noise, and I think this has probably been the biggest feedback that we've had so far, is really, when we looked at this overall in our business model, this really is going to come down to our private events. I mean, as far as any type of events that we're going to be having for the bakery and so forth, I think we had a mariachi band one time right now for an hour. Okay. As far as the way we're designing is not going to be, frankly, Al, where we're going to have 300 people there and we're going to have bands playing until 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. That's just not what we're thinking. Our whole idea is to have a small type of wedding venues or something where we would have not more than 100 people, is where really what we're feeling our little niche is going to be. It's not, I mean, we're already going to be up since 2 o'clock in the morning, so the reality is at 10:30, 11 o'clock is never going to happen. So I hope that you guys take that into consideration. I just don't think that's something you guys need to worry about. Certainly, we don't want to, we are considerate of our neighbors and feel that that is something, I guess you're concerned because I think there was some overlap where it didn't get at 10 o'clock, wherever the cutoff is. I mean, we're still meeting that by by 2 hours during the summertime. So I appreciate all your consideration and thank you for hearing us out.
Thank you.
Oh, we have one more.
Elia. Elia Salinas. Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I frequent Suncoast Bakery often, and it's a great place. It's not just a great place locally, but it actually brings in some tourism. People come from other areas because they're hearing about this gem that we have in the county, and we should all be very proud of this business. Family-owned, family-run. The economic development that it's bringing to the county is going to be able to grow. I think it's great. So they're willing to compromise because they're nervous that they're not going to get this. So, and this is their livelihood. So they're actually willing to compromise to stop the music at 8 o'clock. I am requesting the Planning Commission to abide by the municipal code, the law that says it's till 10 o'clock. There are no other businesses in San Benito County that are required. People always complain, you're not going to make people happy all the time, but at least we know that this family, or I know that this family personally is going to abide by the law. And we had big issues when Leal had their band going. He's had it going at the Vineyard. He had it going over at off of 156. I can't think of the place right now, the Grove. We have Guerras, that they have music out there. They've got bands going out there, shuts down at 10 o'clock. They all abide by the law. The Jensens and the Millers are willing to compromise because they fear that they would not get this permit, so they allowed for 8 o'clock. If it goes through, it will be restricted, and once it's restricted, it cannot be taken off. So just because there's a few people, this doesn't mean that they should be able to let or run how this company or this business should be run. So I really like you guys to consider what the municipal code already stands for, says about with regards to the 10 o'clock music. And that's about, the only thing that I have that's against this right now is that restriction. But other than that, it's kind of funny that the gentleman that spoke earlier that says, he can hear the music, then yet, Madam Commissioner, he had to ask you twice because he couldn't hear you, but he's complaining about noise that doesn't even exist yet, but he couldn't hear you speaking right here this close. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Through the chair, I've been handed a letter for a person that doesn't wish to speak at the dais, but it's a single-page letter that I'd pass up to the Planning Commission.
Real
Should we-
quick, I just wanted to talk about public noticing. So standard procedure for the county is the one-page noticing, and that's why we provide the planner's contact information so that anyone who is interested in getting more information can come into the county and see all materials. All materials are available to anyone who wants to see them. The notice was mailed out on January 24th, allowing 10 business days as mandated for comment. Now, I did have one person come in and actually view all the materials. I apologize if that wasn't made clear that you could come in and do that. I'll make sure to make it clear going forward. But if there's any questions or concerns about noticing or how the county standards, I hope I cleared that up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Public comment is closed. Is there any discussion amongst the commissioners?
I just have a couple questions, but I found them out through Google. Just wanted to confirm that your current hours of operation are Friday and Saturday, 11 to 6 and 9 to 3, I believe. I think it's important because I do think some valid points were brought up during public comment for perspective in terms of conditioning the noise, right, and knowing that it's at at 10. So we're just looking at an expansion of what we feel and believe should be done about that. So I just wanted to bring that up as I read the letter real quick.
Ariel, can you put the two conditions that you outlined earlier just on the screen, just so we can review that again?
The resolutions that I provided also has the language in there.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's in the conditions.
Yep, thank you.
Were you satisfied, Commissioner Eggers?
Yeah, I just want to make sure it wasn't different from what I had written down here, so.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further comment?
I just wanted to comment that the amplified music section, it says May through June, and I believe before you said May through October.
Yes, May through October, it's the 6-month interval. Is there a typo?
It says June, May through
Oh,
June. So
then we will fix that.
we'll adjust that as we proceed here.
Well, it would make sense that the noise was curtailed earlier in the winter during the dark hours, considering that we've got a bakery that's probably wanting to go to bed in the winter time when it's cold, and that it be extended until 8 o'clock. And what we're understanding from the owners that their activities are not going to extend late in the evening. So I don't have any problem with this condition unless the owner has further comment on that.
May I, through the chair, just one
Yes.
thing, not at this point. Once it's approved, you'd have to come back and,
Can you come to the podium, sir? Sure.
We're talking about the business here as far as curtailing our ability to play music past 8 o'clock and 6 o'clock.
This is amplified music.
Amplified music, correct.
Therefore,
So if it's
it may be
unamplified,
less.
would we still be legal to, if we have a guy playing a guitar, would we be okay? Because that would be if a acoustic guitar playing the guitar.
It's specified amplified.
Okay, so that's fine. I agree with that. Then the other question I have is, so if we're playing a radio in the morning and he happens to hear me playing my music while I'm decking my dough, is that going to be considered amplified music?
Ariel looks like she has
I
a
would,
comment.
I guess that what I would ask is that we make the condition on this is that because everyone's sensitivity to music is different, and this could be stretched a little bit based on what we put in writing. My feeling is that the 6 and 8 during our business hours open to business, and then if they and then it would fall back to the standard 10 o'clock p.m. based on non-business hours. So if we're not open and we choose to play our music, we don't have to feel like we're going to be badgered about our music or or amplified sound. I mean, that's what everyone else is. That's what the public and what the city ordinances are, or county ordinances are.
And it is also agriculture productive noise level of 45 in the day. So if your radio is no louder than a tractor, I imagine it would pass.
Right. Well, where the patio is situated and where we would have the public access, there's not anyone, I don't believe, that's within, I mean, you have boundary lines, and then you have between the properties, but you have the boundary lines to buildings. And those buildings, when I did the ABC, I think it had to be within 300 or 500 feet. And there's not a building within 300 or 500 feet of the property, or of where our public access would be for the music.
From the site plan that you've provided also, and the trees around, there should be a lot of absorption from.
Right. And we have some plans in the works to put some additional trees up.
Through the chair, my concern is that being that this is a phased project, that you're going to curtail yourselves before you've even begun with this particular issue, being that the county already has a noise ordinance. I would be comfortable just leaving it at the current hours of the noise ordinance and not try to curtail this business before it's even started to grow.
And
That makes me uneasy.
And through the chair too, hence why I brought it up earlier. I don't want to set a false precedent. If we already have a noise ordinance in place, we're also setting some sort of a message that we can kind of curtail those different conditions based on, impact and, well, not impact, but based on, maybe the voice of a certain, few. I think that's the whole point of this whole process, that we should really be open to the public opinion, but knowing if there's already something in place that's policy-based, we should most likely uphold that as the county calls for. So I would also be in agreement with Commissioner, with you, and then with
Gibson.
Yeah, thank you. So many Roberts.
And with Gibson and Eduardo, keep it to the same. If we start changing the hours, pretty soon it's gonna set precedents, and everybody's gonna want to change the hours, and they're gonna come in here and complain. If we get an ordinance set, I mean, I know Liao had a lot of problems there, but the ordinance is 10 o'clock. And that's, I mean, unfortunately, those people live in the hill, and noise does travel up. But we're going to have it is an ordinance, 10 o'clock.
Commissioner Eggers?
I'm fine with that recommendation as well. And ultimately, it's up to you how you want to run your business. If it makes sense to shut everything out at 8 o'clock instead of 10 o'clock, that's great.
Right.
And if that's what you want to do, that's great. But you shouldn't be driven by
I'll go by with the direction of the planning commission.
Because also, he had a comment, what if everybody goes home, he puts the music on, he's in violation? So, yeah, just keep it 10 o'clock.
Yeah, you're cleaning up, you're doing something, and then, but now you can't because,
We have a comment from the principal planner.
Well, no, I think the commissioner is wisely and thoroughly discussing all this. The county land use ordinance isn't, you should not hear your neighbor. There are noise ordinances that say there's a level that, you should respect for, evening times and daytimes and not to exceed. I mean, can you imagine if we cited every car that went down the road just because it exceeded for a moment and a flash of a big noise? So I think you've talked through it very well. Let's put it this way, the general plan is more permissive than what the applicant has agreed to here in a self-regulatory way with the 6 p.m. and 8 p.m., trying to be considerate for nighttime hours. And that's the way the draft resolution is written. You're welcome to amend that, should you wish to. And and the other part of that was the noise, was traffic control. And that was engaged with the applicant and event operator to basically have it organized by someone running a flag or flashlights, what have you. So I don't believe staff has anything further to add unless there's additional questions.
I do have, through the chair, another concern. Public Works items 16 and 17 regarding the width of the road. It doesn't seem logical or realistic that South Side will be widened to 4 lanes in there, given the elevations of the road. So I would like to strike 16 and 17 as well, if we're going to be.
If I could speak to that for a moment, we're actually trying to overcome in a little way some of our things in the general plan that haven't been updated and refined as yet. And, you know, there's lines drawn at 110 feet and things like that. And so I think the language is written that should, and I would say when, the county revises the eventual expected width of Southside Road in there, that we would have had more to start with, but it might be, you know, that we're actually returning dedications to the property owner.
So that will be part of the process of making the general plan make a
Sure, I
little
mean,
more
if the
sense.
county comes to its reason on the eventual configuration and the utility width of Southside, that at this point, we haven't undercalled it and need to ask for more later. It's kind of in the inverse that we would return that. But we need the, you know, we need the hook, if you would, at this point of the applicant's responsibility to be a player with the eventual right-of-way and the dedication there.
Okay. Well, we'll work on the that chart and fix what was a mistake made years ago. So I'm fine, I guess, leaving that in for now.
And Southside Road never be widened.
Right.
No, what cost?
What
200
it
million.
does-
Billions, not millions.
I think if we had the money to build Southside Road to that degree, we'd probably fix a lot of potholes instead.
Yeah, the matter is that should there be a need in the future, that we look to the future now and have a commitment that should there be a need, that there's dedication. So I feel that according to what has already been recorded, is good.
And just to clarify, it's an irrevocable offer of dedication. It's not go out and build this to look like industrial, you know, commercial standards.
Okay.
It's just an offer.
It's-
We'll make sure we adjust the chart. Okay.
I will entertain a motion.
I make a motion to adopt Resolution 2020 next. A resolution of the San Benito County Planning Commission approving the county file PLN 190072 with the deletion of the language regarding the times for the amplified music, that they will comply with the county noise ordinance currently on the books.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 So moved. Congratulations.
Through the chair, maybe we could offer just a moment of transition while the gallery maybe
Yes.
adjusts. Well, here I go.
Because it's about to die.
Oh, gosh, I don't think I turned
This is
my
it.
ringer
This one
off.
right here. Yeah, let me just get this set up for Chuck.
Good job.
I was only going to add what the current ordinance.
Hey, how you doing, Jim? Good to see you. Yeah, there are some right here. And I'm not sure what these are. You have to explain what these are. We don't know what these are. Is that what it is? Okay. Very good. See you, Jim.
See you.
How you doing, man? Have a good night. Hey, Barbara. One more handshake here. Wait, I got one more too. I know you back there. What? Who's your boss? I'm gonna call him.
I felt it would prevent extend it to the next meeting. Okay, he's just concerned.
Been good? Been a lot of work out there.
Shall we resume session?
Yes.
We will now consider number 3 on our agenda.
Yeah, good evening. I have to say I've enjoyed with a little snicker some of the names here. We got Lazy Bum, we've got a Hare Scramble. I didn't know if that was an omelet in the morning or something with rabbits.
Excuse me, before you get going on that, I feel like I have to be excused from this one, since we provide service to the Lazy Bum, and I don't want anybody to say there's any conflict.
Okay.
So I'll be.
Maybe I should clarify that. Is your business supplies
We provide garbage service.
recycling and garbage
Yes, yes.
service for all of South County past there?
Correct.
And so there's not a way that you would be steering new business or anything towards this enterprise, but you're choosing for appearances to sit this one out.
Yes,
And
uh-huh.
I thank you for that.
Thank you. So we resume.
Yeah, thank you very much. So this is a file number PLN 2007, which is involving a temporary use permit for a 2-day off-road motorcycle event. So just in general, in location, I'd like to guide you to the screen here. We're talking 31 miles south of Hollister proper from, and I think that 0 at Hollister is right here at the county governance. So we're in the country in the general plan, rangeland, land use designation, and the zoning is agricultural rangeland with open space. So basically, this blue line is along Highway 25, past Ridgemark, Tres Pinos, and at Piscinas. I guess, who was it? Who was the Yogi Berra that says when you get to the fork in the road, take it? So you head towards, you get on Pinoch Road for additional miles, and this is the location. But at issue this evening is regarding a county policy. So classically, staff is the level of review for temporary use permits. So we do the tree farms, the pumpkin patches, and things like that. And there's generally, and we'll see some details later, about a 30-day review for those temporary activities. Street carnivals, aromas days, things that happen for 2 days. And we do the review for public safety. Do we need, porta potties? Do we need security? Do we need, streets blocked off? That's normally at a staff level. But at issue here is we have discovered in our own general plan, health and safety policy 8.4, and its literal reading is that the county shall limit the use of off-road recreational motor vehicles to those areas specifically designated for that purpose, Clear Creek and Hollister Hill State Vehicular Recreational Area. And and that the county is obligated to maintain the lands around those off-road vehicle parks in open space and agricultural use as a means of providing a noise buffer. And so as you read in the report, when I first read this ordinance of off-road recreational vehicle use, I'm thinking as a planner, well, that's probably to protect our stream beds, you know, air quality, exhaust, you know, trees, hillsides, erosion. But it turns out on the finer reading of this, it's actually in the health and safety ordinance about noise attenuation. So it's in a section where to protect the public from noise, we have commercial development standards, airplane noise should be reduced, different standards, and of which they said, well, off-road vehicles, let's have them up there to protect the public from noise. Well, a little further reading also has us come across policy HS 8.8, which allows for some exemptions. I once had a planner come up to me, you know, it says, I need a noise variance because I need to violate the code. Well, this is an exemption, and those exemptions apply to temporary events where those noise issues, it's interesting, the discussion before is how loud can your neighbor be or things like that, and are there exemptions? So temporary events are exempt. So the straight reading of HS 8.4 would have us disallow this event, which is not at Clear Creek, nor at the Hollister Hills area. But yet for the purposes of the protection that was put in H.4, there's an exemption for temporary uses. And so staff is here actually seeking a little guidance, little policy guidance, and you know, we've made a pitch here for how we think the policy can be interpreted, and we're looking for your direction with that tonight. So, and I've prepared two resolutions. So should the motion be to deny the project, there's findings and evidence in the attached resolution for that. And should you wish to approve the project, we believe there's a case there with solid evidence and findings and conditions of approval to support that project. So it's not that staff is wishy-washy, it's just, it's good to have a check-in with our appointed planning commission so that we know that we're operating in the intent that the general plan and that you intend for the county. So should the planning commission determine that HS 8.4 does not apply to temporary 1 to 3 day events, well, then the county can process a temporary use permit, such as we did last year. In the staff report was the story of how they kind of came in at a late hour and said people are coming, and we got word out to the fire department, police department, emergency services, health department, and said, you know, if all these people are coming, what conditions, what do we need? What do you need to know? All right, and so we've got the word out, and actually everybody came back with conditions of approval on how to operate, including county liability and indemnification of no public liability, that they would take responsibility for the event. But even included, you know, life flight helicopters and direct conversations with the sheriff, and everybody had everybody's phone number so that public safety could be assured. And staff issued conditions of approval and allowed the event. And it was only since that time that right there, with a little more time to think, we've come across 8.4. And it's been an awkward discussion for us at the county when we say, yeah, we approved you last year, but we have this policy now, we don't know what to do. And so that's why we're here. And as it's also shared in the staff, well, let me just continue on. So if you determine that HS 8.4, which is the limitation to Clear Creek and Hollister Hills, does not apply to temporary events, which are exempt from those noise ordinances, then we can process a temporary use permit, giving notice to the adjacent properties, full review, conditions of approval from public safety officers, and the indemnification. And classically, subject to code for temporary use permits, we have issued them for the weekend event. aroma stays or a pumpkin patch for 30 days. And it's really easy to count off your calendar. But another interpretation of that could be, well, how about if I don't exceed 30 in a year? And if you divide that back by 12 months, it's actually, 2.5 day events, 12, or basically once a month, that one could consider temporary use permits. So there's just some policy ramifications you'll have to think through, and we should probably talk that if we say, yes, this is a temporary event and it's appropriate, it may be that we have additional events come in and ask to do off-roading and things that are not at Clear Creek and Hollister Hills. But they'll be temporary and exempt from the noise ordinance, from the noise provisions of the general plan. So it gets a little dicey, a little bureaucratic, but that's where we're needing to soundboard off the Planning Commission. If the county interprets H.8.4 to apply to all off-road vehicle use, temporary and semi-permanent, if that's where you want to go with then the county will likely have an enforcement issue, which we may or may not have public resources to police such things. Just this, and equal treatment may not be politically palatable. I mean, just this weekend, you might have heard about the event that happened at Picacho Creek. It was just this last weekend, which is part of the circuit that we can talk about in just a moment. But there's a property 50 miles south of Hollister, owned by a private motorcycle club and family. It's very family oriented, that they own 360 acres. And they've been inviting and having motorcycle events like this many years without asking for a permit or knowing they needed a permit, nor have I been aware, as I've talked to the fire department and the sheriff's department, emergency services, or these others, that there's been any problems or issues. All right, and so at one point, we have people come into the counter asking straightforward, can I get a permit for this? And we say, oh, there's a problem, shut the door, the code says no. And they say, well, what about the sleeper event that's happened all these years and no one's had a problem with it? So that's part of what we deal with at RMA and land use. But if we determine that 8.4 is not modified by that temporary aspect, equal treatment might be troublesome. And if we, shut them down, the third bullet there, and we can talk about it, I think there's interest to talk about it, potential loss of seasonal economic development opportunities, to capture the retail, lodging, food needs of the event people buying gasoline and propane and firewood, camping supplies, even ice cream, or going into the IHOP for breakfast. If those folks aren't here, they're not coming into the businesses. And so just a little bit more now about the hare scramble race. Again, it's 31 miles south of Hollister on Panoche Road. And the local district, the local racing district, AMA District 36, has this schedule that is part of a circuit. And there in red, the second bullet there, February 15, 16, was the event at Picacho Creek. The Boulder one, March 7th and 8th, is the one before you right now. All right, but you can see that these are, pieces of the cog, and if anybody recognizes one of these other names as also being in San Benito County, I had to look at that and go, oh no! It's like Tavin, you didn't know about Bigfoot Blitz, So, but you can kind of see here with the denial and not being able to rely on past practices of the county, or that this circuit would be disrupted. Whether it's the county's problem or not is for you to talk about, but you can see how there might be that disruption. So a little bit more about the race. Last year, the 2-day, oh, by the way, if it didn't come across, the owners of the ranch, their last name is Bum, and they've named it Lazy Bum. And the hare scramble is so anyway, it's kind of Lazy Bum Hare Scramble. Occurred March 30 and 31. Approximately 690 riders and they were supported by their vehicles, their campers, staff, family members, and fans. And by their own materials presented for marketing brochures, where the applicants looking for sponsors and things, he was saying, we get as many as 1,000 to 3,000 racers in a given day. So you think about those restaurants and either all self-contained and they just drive away, or they do fill their cars and their gas tanks and they do spend money, but maybe as much as 3,000 racers in a day. And let's just go back now into, what is the event and where it's located. It's deep off Pinoch Road. There's looks like to be an old airstrip that's over here at this event. Here's the race course on that same road. Is the little airport, if you can see, is under here, the little landing strip that's there. And this is a race course plan provided by the applicant. So agreement with the property owner is that this is a no ride, no bike zone. But they have laid out where, vendors are going to be, where people can have parking, restrooms, dumpster locations, a helicopter pad that's here. I've traced the image in your staff report in white here, trying to do that, but basically with the start line that they take this course. Brian, how many miles is the circuit?
We're looking at between 7 and 9 miles.
So this loop is between 7 and 9 miles? Okay, so that gives you a little sense of the scale of what we're speaking about. The next is a little more detail on the pit. So here's that edge of the no bike zone, no ride zone, where they've accommodated for accessibility and restrooms and parking areas, sign-up booths, vendor locations. Here's the start, here's some pits. Here's where the ambulance is going to stay static and stationary unless they need to move. Here's a helicopter landing pad. So that's part of the application materials. And then just a few event and context photos. This is the Wild Hair event last year, I believe. This image is how it occurred on this property when the applicants approached us so quick, so close to the race event that we just, we worked in that Chamber of Commerce kind of attitude. Oh my gosh, people are coming, let's make sure they're safe. We really had not seen that there was that policy H8.4, or we would have, what do we do? And possibly even turned them away at that point. But this is how, what's important about this is you see the hills, the trees, the pathways, you see spectators lined up in the back, you see the pits and the bikes here, you see support vehicles, and either team shops or mechanics. You see restrooms, other rigs that are in support. And then, of course, here's probably one of the most exciting things is, right, everybody lined up to start the race and then actually getting to go. I entertained at one point a live action video here, but I don't know if it's going to take or if it's really relevant to our discussion this evening. So what direction would the Planning Commission like to take? There in front of you is a case to deny and a case to approve. So one could take a strict literal reading of HS 8.4 and basically determine that this is a location not at the creek and not at Hollister Hills, and therefore should not be allowed anywhere. The case to approve could be made, staff believes now, if we believe that the exemption of 8.8, where it exempts temporary events, that, remember, is all about noise, but it exempts temporary noise. We believe that an argument could be made that that modifies the 8.4, that noise can be excessive or can happen at temporary events versus a permanent stationary noise like an airport or something like that. And so with, staff actually recommends that the Planning Commission review the report, take public testimony, but really make the findings here to adopt the resolution to approve. Because I think with that, we can, capture a good tiger here with the energy, and we can also assure public safety through the conditions of approval. With approval, the applicant can, really re-engage their marketing at this point and involve local businesses if they would. So with the resolution to approve are conditions of approval regarding, indemnification against public liability, staying to the plans that have been submitted, not just all over the hills elsewhere, but to this plan. It speaks to waste disposal and event cleanup, fire safety, security, emergency medical response, traffic coordination, parking, even some cultural resource protections, et cetera. And drinking water is being, we have health department conditions about, the potable source of drinking water. And staff even went a little further that should it be something that the Planning Commission wishes to support as a temporary activity, well, that lets them plan their calendar yearly and return. It also lets the race fans and all the supporting folks know that they're going to be back. So that provides economic development opportunity for Chamber of Commerce or other partnerships, and also lets the public know that you can do that in San Benito County. So, I need to stay objective, but I think actually reading through these things and the policies for economic development and opportunity, and staff believing now that temporary use permit exemption modifies 8.4, that the Planning Commission could act in this manner. So I did share in the staff report that it may not be, allowing this event may not be exactly clean for us, in that we'll have, maybe the word is out, and so I want to do a motor event, I want to do a motor event, I want to do a motor event, and then, do we accommodate that at the same property? Or the other property, that the motor club owns, a little further down county? Or are we going to have folks wanting to do it over there and over there and over there? And, if they're allowed to ask for a motorcycle race as a temporary event, the answer is yes. All right, so it might be that even with the yes today, like we found we needed to modify general plan on how wide is, South Side Road, it might be that we have general plan policies that we shape in a way that's more comfortable for something. The scale of additional events elsewhere, is it just about noise? We want, we don't mind if there's noise as long as you're not in the river. I don't know. I mean, so it's ripe for us modifying the general plan in the future.
Okay.
So with that, I'm going to conclude my presentation, and I'm ready for questions should you wish, and our applicants are here to address any issue.
Okay, before we go to the applicants, because it would concern them as well, how far is Clear Creek from this event?
Clear Creek is actually right near the private property event, about 50 miles down. And my understanding is it is closed to off-road vehicles at this, to these types of activities. And so, one of the first questions at the counter was, how come you don't do this at Clear Creek or Hollister Hills? And one thing is Hollister Hills, or one is closed. That's my understanding. I do not have direct evidence, nor did I call. I'm hearing that from the applicant. It's closed. No reason to disbelieve that. But with the Hollister Hills, what I'm hearing is like it's impossible to break into their calendar. And in fact, they're shedding events that have happened there yearly and biannually.
It's very crowded, yeah.
And that's a real hard nut to crack.
Okay, the second question I had, how far is it from Panoche Valley?
The solar farm is about right in here. So here's Panoche. Here's the Panoche Valley Inn. Let me slideshow.
Okay.
From beginning. Well, if this is 30 miles, maybe the solar area is, 15 miles around the corner. About that? About 15 miles around the corner. Maybe 10 miles to the Panoche Inn.
Okay, but the valley itself is more toward the east of the Hot Springs Road?
Oh, I'm
Is
sorry
that
that
little-
my graphic is washed out. I can see that here's a mountain range, and then Mercy Hot Springs and this road. This is the valley area right here.
Okay.
Okay.
Because that is a sensitive bird area, and I was just concerned how far it is so that there is enough of a buffer zone. And the 10 by 3 is what I kind of noted for myself, the 8.4, when you indicated that there was a possibility that it could be construed as, okay, we've got a 1-month window, so let's break that down into 10 3-day events.
Oh, okay, yes, I know what you're speaking of right now.
Mhm. And you feel that is not in the strict reading? Potentially numerous events could be proposed on a given property as long as 30 days on a given property are not exceeded in a given year.
I do think that's a little problematic for us policy-wise, because if we had if we had a 2-day event happening each month for, let's just call it 24 days, or if you divide it out 3, then at one point I would think that it would be in the county's best interest to have blessed a new track area with a use permit and a general plan provision so that we get the environmental protections, that the neighbors or we've worked through the noise issues and the creek issues, because we've got stuff happening here at, just for example, if it's Bum Ranch, okay. But you couldn't just ask for a use permit at the Bum Ranch right now, because that connotes semi-permanent, more than temporary, a use going forward, and then that would be in conflict with the general plan, which says, it's not a temporary event anymore, so 8.8 goes away, you're at 8.4, which says Clear Creek or Hollister Hills. So at one point, if we found that this is a great area, and that Mr. Bum wishes to entertain more races on his property, it might be that you dig back into the general plan for where you want to be more permissive with such things.
Commissioner?
Through the
So that's
chair.
why I'm here, is this is a policy thing where the planners,
Exactly.
it wasn't
Yeah.
black and white.
We're-
choice.
We appreciate it.
We're nowhere near that, right? It was one race last year and one race this year on this particular property?
That I know of, but I know on the, I'm sorry, what's the facility? No, the other one? Yeah, Salinas Rambler property, they've owned the property just for years and years and years. And I think our applicant, Mr. Garahan here, actually won the West Coast at the Picacho Creek in 2011. So that's showing events, 9 years now. I don't know if you've had it every year, but at least we've got, a flag plaque to 2011, and that's what I'm just finding on the internet. I'm sure there's people here with much more history that they can share with you.
And the buffer zone, at this point, is irrelevant. Within the Bum Ranch, there's no noise issues with neighbors in the past, and
You know, I would not be able to answer that categorically like that. I mean, also with the gentleman that says he has hearing aids and everything, and, you know, he hears things down on the road right there. You know, whether it sounds like bees in the distance, or, you know, does it sound like, hey, that's a motorcycle race going off and it's really disturbing me? I don't know. I do see that 8.8 gives them an exemption from, you know, if the noise provisions were to slow them down.
Because it's a temporary event.
That's how I'm
It's a-
reading
it's a
8.8.
narrowly focused.
Right, that's how you have a monster truck pull or something like that. Those things roar, all right? But it's not every day of the week like you have at an airport with jets landing. It was on that weekend for that fundraiser.
Okay.
But I think the 30-day issue is pretty significant. Staff would like some direction and discussion there.
It could be part of the conditions. If that's good with the commissioners, we'll move to public comment. Or our
The applicant.
applicant comments.
So Brian, I have a directory here. You can choose the exhibits you wish to call up. Hmm?
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
All right, thank you. I'd like you guys to thank you for my time, first off. Thank you for listening to us. I have been racing motorcycles and coming to San Benito County for 32 years now. My dad started taking me to Hollister Hills. I raced motorcycles professionally, and now I've turned into a motorcycle instructor and motorcycle promoter. Some of the people here, I've trained a lot of these people here and their kids throughout the years. Now we're putting on some events. We're trying to put on an event at the Bum Ranch, as you knew, down in 21119 Pinoche Road. I think this would be a great economical value for San Benito County. So it's driving in, you know, over 700 racers last year, and we plan on hopefully driving in more racers and more business this year. We have a lot of the local businesses are sponsoring the event. We have Fault Line Motorsports, we have Steel Solutions, we have other companies, the local businesses sponsoring the event. And then also bringing all the economical value, as he described, with the gasoline, the food, the camping, and all that stuff like that. I hope you guys can consider, you know, 8.8, the temporary temporary permit for this. As he stated before, Clear Creek is now closed, so there's no riding at Clear Creek anymore unless you go there illegally, which we don't want to be doing. And then also Hollister Hills is overly crowded, and they don't allow any more events unless they're grandfathered in. I found this piece of property at the Bum Ranch. The Bum family actually owns Gilroy Motorcycle Center, so they're heavily involved into motorsports already. So another great economical value for you guys. Even though not in San Benito County, it's still driving the same range to buy a motorcycle in Gilroy and drive to Hollister to ride the thing. So as you saw on, as we saw on the maps, we can get on these maps if I get in here. Oh, man.
My presentation's still up if you wanted to
Where's your-
turn on the PowerPoint in the bottom tray.
I'm not very good at this stuff. This one right here?
Yes.
Oh, man. How do I get to the maps, the pages? We'll scroll it. Sorry. I'm not very good at computers.
You can drive a motorcycle, but not.
I am, yeah. I can ride motorcycles really good.
Okay,
Oh, there we are.
All right, what?
Oh, there we go. I can look at this thing too at the same time, huh?
Yeah, you don't have to hurt your neck.
Yeah, sorry.
No, we just go home with crooked necks.
Yeah. So as you can,
Is this what you
I want the pits one. this one right here. So you can see on this map right here, we have a no-ride zone, and this no-ride zone borders most of the residents that are living on the property. So we have a no-ride zone for a buffer zone. And then also in this back zone,
You could use the mouse if you want.
yeah. Over on this area right here, as you can see, the course stays a fair distance away from the property line, and there's not many neighbors back in this area. And on this side right here, the neighbor Mark, what's Mark's last name? Mark Sorelli is supportive of the event. So basically, we have a buffer zone around all the neighbors for noise compliance, where all the houses are. So we did really look into that for consideration, because before going into the event, I know that noise is going to be a big issue. And then also going back to Clear Creek being closed and Hollister not having events, not that I want to say anything, but the Salinas Ramblers has been having events at their property for over 30 years, unpermitted, and they haven't had any issues. My race, as you can see, as we saw in the thing, I have 2 ambulances showing up. I have search and rescue. I have mobile EMTs. I have life flight coming in. We get a fire permit, so we have all the fire extinguishers. We get the health food department there, so we have everything covered. We have a 30-yard dumpster, over 10 porta potties, over 4 wash stations. So we have everything covered in the safety of all of our clients and participants for the event. If you want to, feel free to ask me any questions about the event. I'd be happy to answer.
What comes to my mind first is how many events have you had so far?
At this particular ranch, just one. We did one last year.
Okay. So considering, I think Tavin mentioned that possibility that what if this becomes so popular, how do you see that it might be perpetuated? The surroundings, the ramifications, and it sounds like you have really thought through a great deal already for yourself, so we'd like to hear that.
Yes. Personally, I want to see this event grow into the biggest event, in Northern California. I'd love to see thousands of racers there, but I only plan on doing this race once a year to keep it, its prestige of itself. I don't think doing multiple events at this ranch is what we're looking to do at all. I don't think the family it's a ranch that's owned by multiple families, so they actually have a board for the whole family too, so that's not something that is in the works at all or ever going to be in the works. So I just see this as a once a year annual event, and every year just trying to make it a bigger event every year, and work with Tavin's been super great to work with, and just as the event progresses, hopefully I can work with the county and go through all the right standards to make it progress at the correct standards.
Can you tell us from what direction does the traffic come? I mean, is it coming from the Fresno side, past the hot springs, or is it coming?
I would say 20% of the traffic, 30% of traffic will be coming from the hot springs side, and the 70 to 80% will be coming from the other side. You're going to get the people that don't want to drive the big motor homes down Highway 25, so they go around through the hot springs and stuff like that. So we actually recommend a lot of the racers with the bigger rigs to go around Highway 5 and come back around, just for that purpose and reason. Mm-hmm. But also, I think having the 70 to 80% come in through the Hollister side's good for you guys, because it's bringing in, economical value. They're having to buy gas. I know last year it was 50 miles out. I had to turn around and go back to get gas. Well, I don't get enough gas to get in and out. So I knew I had to go back and get gas, had to buy all my food and supplies before I got out there, because I was spending a week and a half out there. So I think there's a great value in it for the San Benito County.
Commissioners? Do you have any questions?
Yeah, just to the chair. So it sounds like most people are coming in RVs and just parking there for the couple days, or do you have like campsites there, people pitching tents, or what's the accommodations there for people that are staying those couple days?
Most people will be Camping in motorhomes, yes, they have their own motorhomes and trailers and stuff like that. You know, there's a few tent people, but not as, a little bit more rare these days.
Sure.
Back in the 80s and 90s, yeah. But
And that's where you had the parking lot, that's where the RV parking is? That's where
yes,
people
that whole like square right there is kind of the whole parking area, yes. And there's a road all the way around it, and last year we had it one way, a road going all the way around, so it was one way in, one way out, so people weren't coming in on each other. And then on another map I don't have here, but there's another map with the emergency exit for another way out in case there is an emergency.
I just would like to say that we should be helpful when it comes to tourism and bringing dollars into the county. And it sounds like there weren't any major issues last year. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I didn't hear any issues whatsoever last year. I mean, last year they were excited. They were excited about it after they gave me the permit, and they were excited to give me a new permit until this all came about.
And are you working with the businesses in the area as far as Pinochin or the Mercy Hot Springs to bring business to the surrounding businesses?
Yes, I have a sponsorship package that I went to all the businesses. I went to all the hotels in the area. I went to Corbin, and I went to the bicycle shop and the motorcycle shops, and I went to the Ford dealership, and basically all the businesses that I thought would be good and related to my event. And then we also have food trucks that are from this area, San Benito, coming out to do the thing, and then also Commissioner Robert Rodriguez is hopefully providing my trash service and porta potties.
And
There's an ice cream vendor there too, I think.
Ohana Ice, yeah.
Oh, Ohana. Oh, okay.
Would you have an issue if we limited you to an annual event?
As in like one a year, two? No, not at
Yeah.
all.
Okay.
Not one bit.
Mr. Navarro?
No, not this time.
Wow. Are you sure this is only the second one you've done?
At the Bum Ranch, yes, I do an event at Donner Ski Ranch,
Oh, okay.
and then I did an event at the Black Oak Casino. But I do events like I've done events at Hollister Hills. I've done like GP style and motocross events at Hollister Hills in the past, but not anymore.
Yeah. It doesn't appear you're a novice at this.
No,
Yes, Mr.
Through the chair, and this is going to be a little difficult. I would be helpful for you to spend a moment with the equal treatment aspect of this. So if the commission is leaning towards approving this temporary use permit, we have the other events that have gone on without permits for many years, to evidently no detriment of public safety or anything like that, but like a little discussion regarding that and how you would have us engage or not other people. Or it seems like I've got the attention of council all of a sudden.
Are those events open to the general public, or are those members of the club only? Do we know?
It's part of the circuit, so it'd be the same openness of people that
I think there'd
qualified.
be a process to get a permit then.
Yep.
And kudos to Brian for following the process. I think that's great.
And the truck pulls, are those at Bellotto? Is that what was referenced in the material?
You know, if there's something at Bellotto or a designated event center, those don't really rise really to the temporary use permits through the
Yeah,
planning
state
department.
property.
But we do have, off-property, charity events that are treated as temporary, you're given temporary use permits. But if you're at a concert venue and and you're having a concert, or some kind of entertainment, that you don't need a planning
Okay.
permit. The whole facility's already been approved.
Okay.
Mr. Counsel, did you have something you needed to say?
No, I think we have an application for a use permit, and we can deal with the application and perhaps separate out the general policy issues as far as the general plan. and other events or other considerations. The focus tonight is on this application.
Okay, well,
Okay.
sounds good. I think we should lean to be more permissive as far as allowing events. And they provided a lot of information last year, even though it was at the last minute. And there weren't any issues. You covered all the bases in my estimation. So I would say that I would support the event.
Let's hear from the public.
Yes. Do we have any public comment?
8?
you.
Wow.
Don Amador?
Good evening, Madam Chairman and Commissioners. All this food, I got to say, has been making me hungry. The bread and all the vendors out there.
And they didn't bring any samples.
So my name is Don Amador. I'm the Government Affairs Lead for AMA District 36, which is a sanctioning body. But some of you may have seen me up here or down here for over the last 8 years, working on legislation to reopen Clear Creek with Congressman Farr and now Jimmy Panetta and his staff. And as it was pointed out, Clear Creek used to provide, 3 to 5 motorcycle events a year, and of course it's now closed. Hopefully we'll get legislation passed this year, but even if we do, it's going to be many years before it gets opened up to where we have permitted events again. And as the staff pointed out in some of their documents, private land recreation is an important part of the recreation matrix in the United States. We're seeing more and more ranch lands, timberlands, mining lands, not just in California, but throughout the U.S., looking for ways to provide recreational opportunities and economic benefits. On the slate there, you'll see Burroughs Ranch, which is up in Tehama County. That's another ranch that provides a motorized event on their property, trying to bring folks into Tehama County, eat at Granzella's restaurant and things like that. And probably the biggest ranch of all is Loretta Lynn's ranch back in Tennessee. You've heard of her? Well, she's got a ranch. They have motorcycle events there. They've got concerts and chuck wagon races and things like that. So as council said, you have 2 options tonight, 2 things to deal with, the temporary use permit. But then I think maybe more importantly is a discussion afterwards that will continue on just how the county embraces recreational opportunities on private lands within the county, whether it's motorized or non-motorized. How can you bring economic benefit back into this area? So just ask that you approve and support the staff recommendation. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Greg Bum. I represent the owners of the property. My family, we have been lifelong off-road enthusiasts our entire life. And when we got the opportunity to open up our property to an event like this, we kind of couldn't pass it up. It brings more people to the sport of all ages, young all the way to old. Brings a lot of people down to Hollister, the county, and the economic benefit is great. So I support the staff decision to approve it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian, did you want to say anything else?
No.
No, okay. Nicole Gonzalez?
Good evening, guys. My name is Nicole Gonzalez. I'm a property owner on Pinoch Road. I'm actually 2 properties away from the Bum Ranch. And I'm also a local business owner. We run a boarding kennel for dogs out on our property on Pinoch Road. I'm here to support the race. My son rides and has ridden with Brian for a few years now. Last year's race was one of the most organized, clean races. We've participated in the entire course schedule of all those races all over California, and Brian runs a really good, safe, clean race. A couple of notes that I wrote down. in regards to Pinoche Valley, my children go to Pinoche Elementary. So we drive past Pinoche Valley on a regular basis. It's about 15 to 20 miles with a mountain range in between from where the dirt bike race will actually be held to the actual valley area. And along with that, the noise issues, nobody pointed out that the race typically starts at 9 in the morning. There's multiple races throughout the day, but they're usually over by 3 or 4 in the afternoon. So there's no nighttime riding. There's no nighttime races, anything like that. So noise, in the evening is not necessarily an issue. Also, I noticed last year with the race that Tres Pinos had a huge intake of, especially gas. Wayne at the county store down there I've never seen that store so busy when we stopped in there. He was out of ice the entire weekend. There was constantly a line out the door for stuff like that. So I know it was a huge revenue boost for there. Yes, the majority of people do stay in RVs and stuff on the property, but a lot of local people that are within an hour and a half don't stay. They drive back and forth, or they stay in town if it's easier. So there still is a lot of back and forth commute people. And lastly, I just want to say San Benito County has always been very open and welcoming to motorcycles in general. We would love for you guys to continue to allow that and embrace that. It's an extremely family-friendly event, with the county and the city constantly trying to find things for youth to do in the area. I think this would be a very positive way to show support for family-friendly events. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jerry Shockmill. I live in Hollister. I've been riding dirt bikes and racing dirt bikes for over 40 years, and having events like this is great for us. There's not too many around, places are getting closed all the time, and to ride a new spot like this is great. Like they said, it's a family sport. The motorhomes are there, not just with a single driver. There's a mom, dad, the kids race. I mean, it really brings them all together. So I'm in favor of it. Thank you.
Fernando Oliveira?
Good evening. My name is Fernando Oliveira. I live here in town, and I have a special interest on this. I'm supported. I have 2 grandsons that are racers. Dante, that's Pro 1, and Mateo, that are Pro 2. I have attended many of their races. Unfortunately, they're all just Nevada. It's just North Washington. They're all over the place. And having one here in town, it's great. Usually these events go very smooth. Just young men that are trying to achieve their goals and so on. Dante 2 years ago was on Chile, which is the annual 6-day enduro event, like the Olympics of motorcycles, and he did very well, United States. This year, last November, was in Portugal. Again, the 6-day event, United States brought home the gold and the girls team for the first time also. So it's, I think it's a great thing for the county, and I think it's very, very just families having, it's great, having a good event, so I'm here definitely to support it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm a local contractor here in town. My name's Royce Bolus. I've been riding motorcycles for quite a while, and one thing that's really kind of cool about this type of a weekend like this, having somebody like Garahan to put this on, because there's not too many people that can do what he does. We all ride, but somebody to go out and lay out a course and have everything go and stuff like that is just precious, and even District 36 used to have 17 races. Now I think we're down to 13, like I said, they're taking them away. And you're talking about kids on a 50 and people up to a 450 motorcycles. So it's, you know, it's really a family event with a priest and services and everything else that goes with this facility. So it is a good group, and one of the great things about like the Bums opening their ranch, we ride at Hollister Hills, so there's burned-in trails and all this other stuff. So it's still great to ride, but it's everybody's been riding on it, and it's always there. One of the great things is now these are all virgin trails. You know, these are new lines. You know, everybody's kind of, you know, it's just a different way of riding. You're just getting a lot more out of it. So that part of it is what facilities are great like this. And I wish that we were having to have a meeting here about there's too many of these going on. So I totally approve this. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, George Oliveira. I have two racers of my own that, as my dad, Fernando, was up here, it is a big pleasure to have something close to home, and with the family thing, I have 5 kids, and all of them at one time were racing, and this is what we would do on the weekends, just keeping the whole family together, and that was the way we chose to raise them as well. But thank you for the time, and I approve this.
Thank you.
Thank you. When are you going to learn to take your card up? I had
to
to
listen
time,
to
Elliot.
everybody first so I can take notes, then I know what to say. This is not my first rodeo, as they say. Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. They're willing to stay to 1 a year. I am all about economic development. This is why I am for Measure K. I don't like people out there telling what a property owner can and cannot do with their property. This family has decided that they can do this, and they've done it. They've done it the right way. They've asked for permits. I don't know much about motorcycle racing or whatever, but I think if I understand correctly, what you want this to be is eventually you go to other races and then you qualify. This would be like a top qualification race, which means a lot in the industry. I do know that. From what little I know, it's kind of like doing, marathons and triathlons and stuff. You qualify to get to the major ones. So anyway, and Mr. Tavern, just so we know, we don't have an IHOP in Santa Clara and San Benito County, so we want them to stop in the city of Hollister and eat here.
No, but we've got a nice organic bakery, I understand.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do, but that's going to be closed when they're coming through. So we want businesses coming to
It
San
might
Benito
not be
County.
if there's a little coordination.
Yeah. Speaking of coordination, thank you, because the other thing is, I don't know whether or not, I know he said he hit, these auto places and motorcycle places, but I would really like to see some kind of cooperation with the San Benito County Business Chamber. Because this is great, like I said, for businesses, and it's also nice to have open dialogue with them and see what other businesses would like to be able to participate with that as well. I lost my train of thought when I thought about that. Let's see. 2 questions. I know the person spoke up here earlier. She's a resident there. Were there any noise complaints last year? Because that makes a difference, obviously. It seems that there weren't any noise complaints because they would have been down here. Y'all would have been hearing about it after this happened. So I am all for this. Also, what I would like to see is, personally, I would like more of these events. It's not disturbing anything. He says, Hollister Hills, it's been used a lot, so people are still getting hurt out there. And I really appreciate the fact that they've taken into consideration to even have a helicopter pad there. Because we all know when you see them on the weekends, the helicopter's coming from Hollister Hills. So it's great that they took that into consideration to get injured people back into medical attention before it was too late. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll get it. By the way, it's not required legally. I didn't say it was, I just asked if you had a card.
We have to keep track of you. All right, let's bring it back to the board, to the commission. Excuse me, I'm practicing.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Any comments, questions?
Through the chair, I've got just a little playful thing. I noticed on slide number 1, which is the Lazy Bum Hair Ranch, and I understand, Mr. Bum, your business is in Gilroy, is that correct? Okay, well, we're San Benito County, and I see right there on Lazy Bum that icon that you're advertising, at least last year's event, you know, it's like Gilroy's Lazy Bum, I don't know. Did you? I don't know, we're looking for a little place and
Where is
name.
the San Benito County emblem?
Oh, thank you,
Thank
Chair.
you.
I have nothing for
Let's see. We'll close the public hearing. Commission discussion, we've gone through. You know, it's really exciting to see an event like this develop, and it's very characteristic of San Benito County to kind of start off with developing things on a small scale, an experimental idea of working through something and watching it mature, just like the little bakery that was previous. And I think the thing that we would need to caution ourselves on, as well as the applicant, that how it moves forward, to gauge it in looking into the future. So I guess we'll let the future take care of itself, right? We're working on an event, and
If I may, through the chair, I just want to, well, first of all, you know, thank for this whole process. I come from a marketing and event planning background myself, so I understand the grievances and the permit application, the permitting piece of it. And I do agree that in terms of, you know, what we're trying to do here is look for kind of the, you know, the future of the county, and when it comes to economic development, I urge us to also be, you know, take that into consideration. We are obviously here for this temporary use permit now. I do think it warrants a future discussion on what we're going to be doing that, or how moving forward that's going to affect us at a policy level. But it's a conversation that I think we're willing to have, because I think it's going to be adding to that, you know, vision of economic prosperity for San Benito County.
well said. Thank you. I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve Resolution 2020 Next, which approves a temporary use permit for this two-day motorcycle race on March 7th and 8th, 2020 at 119 Panoche Road under planning file PLN 200007.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations.
Yeah, I was gonna just bring him in.
So, Brian, could I,
I know.
Then we just have the commissioner announcements.
Discussion.
Oh, actually, we have the discussion item, yeah.
We have a discussion.
20 acre.
Yeah.
I've been up since 2, not
Hi.
functioning very. I just woke up.
What'd you do?
Just woke up and couldn't go back to sleep.
You have to turn on Pandora.
I don't have that.
You know, on your cell phone?
On a small note in the middle.
Spotify, any of those?
90s, I donate these straight.
Ambient white
I can't
noise.
believe they're still here from Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey.
Oh.
Great.
Oh, yeah, you live right by the road. See, that's why I don't live right by the road, man. I went right up in the middle.
Google basically uses your shopping list to do items.
You need it now or later?
That's on the next discussion agenda.
Yeah. Apparently not.
Is it shocking to you?
Okay.
Give me a call tomorrow.
What did I miss?
Oh, you had to leave the room?
Yeah. I was outside.
Sit down.
Yeah, no.
They cheered when they.
That's good.
Good luck.
No. We do the garbage service. Should we make a motion to adjourn?
No,
Yeah,
we have
one
a
more
few more
discussion item.
things.
No, one more discussion item. Oh.
Yeah. And then any sort of announcement.
Discussion item number 4. Yeah.
But then, you see, we had such a good chair last year.
Mm.
Walked us through everything. So I have learned greatly. Shall we call it back to order? Wrap with the gavel.
Sure.
I'm understanding we have a discussion item.
Yeah, so that's my whole report, is the underlined sentence on number 4 there. Is a placeholder for a discussion. 5-acre minimums now, formerly was 20-acre minimums in agriculturally zoned properties. So
Through the chair, I've done some recent research on land use initiatives, one of which was in 2004, there was a general plan amendment initiative to increase the minimum parcel size for agricultural land use designations to 20 acres, and that was defeated. So, just as a point of information.
Through the chair, defeated by.
I don't know what the vote was.
It was a vote of the people?
It was a vote of the electorate of San Benito County.
Through the chair. Will that measure M? I remember that one, I think.
I don't recall. I think it may have been G at the time, but I mean, that was quite a while ago.
There was only certain areas that were going to be 5 and 1 acre, and then everything else was going to be 20 and 40 acres. It was kind of a conflict of someone back then. I remember that one. I was against it.
Well, through the chair, I think times have changed and we're now chewing up our land to satisfy the growing economy of the Silicon Valley. And I think before we don't have anything left and we have a big house in the middle of 5 acres that doesn't produce an ounce of agriculture, then we need to reconsider that. Given that we're now a bedroom community, I think it's worth discussing and possibly bringing back to the people. I think the support may have changed. There's a lot of frustration.
Now, my opinion, we should consider is the county worked with the city in anything with a adjacent to city that's 5 acres, zone it, multi-resident, single lots, break them up.
through the chair.
So we
did
don't
you-
use up so much land.
Through the chair, did you wish for staff to participate freely in the discussion or wait till spoken to?
It's a discussion. Yes, please join us.
So one could argue that, if it's going to be an agricultural property, that it maintain a size that demonstrates agricultural viability. So I've worked in, actually I think it was Humboldt County, where to subdivide below, it might have been 40, or to get to 40, you had to demonstrate that you had a plan that you could make money in food and fiber or animal and still do it. And what was interesting is somebody at one point did this ostrich farm egg report and demonstrated they could do it on 10 acres. So that report went around and became this weird justification for people subdividing smaller. But I think maybe part of your uncomfort is if you're going to create a 5-acre parcel, maybe that's fine, but you call it, estate property, rural estate, large lot residential property versus this thing that says ag. All right? And someone might, so maybe we need a new zoning designation that says that we can accommodate the 5 and 7 acre residential properties that are just large, but let's not pretend that it's consistent as agriculture. So if someone had a 80-acre agricultural piece in front of you and they wanted to make small stuff, you'd say, well, let's make sure that some kind of ag still remains, but maybe on those smaller pieces, you're actually asking for a new zoning designation, which is, residential X, right? I think you just kind of want to truth it out, right? I mean, if it's residential, it's residential. If it's not going to be agriculture, why call it agriculture? Is that part of your uncomfort?
Yes. Yeah, there's no agriculture at all. If you drive around and look at all the areas that have that, a horse or a goat is, I would not call that ag productive or anything else. It's just to show property for somebody that doesn't, they bought a tractor and it sits probably 364 days a year.
Isn't that your Toro ride-em mower?
Some people have those and they have their little hat on them. Yeah, I just think it's an issue that we need to address. And if it's something that we can work, fine. If not, then we'll continue down the road that we're going to look like Morgan Hill in a couple of years. So I think we need to do something drastically, or if we don't, maybe the voters will, it seems. So it would be nice to have a discussion at the planning level.
What kind of information can we ask the farming community or the bureaus
Farm
or
Bureau.
somebody to come to the table and help you find that new smallest size of an agriculturally zoned property? Because if we go to the smaller ones, we'll just find the right name for calling it residential in some sense, and maybe have to change the general plan as well if you want those estates. But do we have, evidently a motion failed in the past, but maybe it was 20 or 40 acres, or your, how small can a Williamson Act parcel be? Maybe that's...
It's dependent on what's on there. You can have 7 acres, I believe, in row crop.
I
So.
think 10.
7, 10, could be 10. Something smaller, but it's a discussion I think that we need to resurrect nonetheless.
Now, if you remember, we have like well over 2,000 homes already entitled through existing subdivisions. People can come in and get their, Santana Ranch building permit, because Santana Ranch subdivision has already been approved. The Bluffs has already been approved. We're building stuff at Brigantino, Sunnyside, and Todd Deutscher's estates, and there's Fairview Corners and things like that. But I don't know that I've been too conscious. Maybe Ariel knows a little bit more about this, where we get a building permit that comes in on a 5-acre parcel, and now it's the new house. But I think those parcels are kind of already made. I don't think I've had a new proposal for brand-new 5-acre parcels in a while. We've got one pending where someone's wanting to divide by 5, because that's the zoning, but they want to leave it in open space and then 1-acre parcels. But but at the end of the day, that's still going to have an ag zone on it with a PUD overlay if the planning commission approves that. I mean, part of where you're going is saying, if you're residential, you're residential. If you're ag, you're ag.
Do you need something, sir? Oh, okay.
So perhaps that's something that we can discuss at the next meeting. We might have a presentation from the Farm Bureau, or perhaps staff can find a little information.
Next meeting.
April, May.
If I may, there is a rural residential land use designation in the general plan, which also has a 5-acre minimum. It applies, generally speaking, in areas that are not prime farmland or productive agricultural land. In the 90s, I'm new to the county, but I do some research on land use. In the 90s, there was a fair number of developments in the unincorporated county of 5-acre parcel subdivisions, which ended up creating these county service areas. There are 50 some odd of them, and some of them are quite odd in the county. So that was a development pattern that occurred for a time period that hasn't seemed to have continued with that pattern. But there are substantial areas east and south of the city of Hollister that have residential mixed use or rural residential land use designations that are available for residential development. Many of the CSA developments, 5-acre parcels, still have an agricultural land use designation. That's probably not appropriate, but that's what it is. It's my understanding that some of the resistance to the measure in 2004 came from the farming and ranching community, because they viewed the potential for future division of their land as their legacy or their estate plan or their retirement plan, whether or not that was realized. The other potential that it creates is from a farm lending perspective. If acreage, it can be valued as potentially developable at a 5-acre density, they may be able to borrow more money than if it had a 20-acre minimum. So those are all factors that you may hear from the Farm Bureau about. But what is a viable agricultural parcel size? Again, it depends on the particular use. Row crop or grazing are significantly different. Cannabis, hemp.
Yeah. Minimum 10 acres.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Those are policy considerations. But what I would point out to the commission is the commission's role is essentially the keeper of the general plan, and to receive annual reports on the implementation of the general plan, to make recommendations to the Board of Supervisors about changes that maybe should be considered as far as the general plan is concerned. So that's the role of the commission as laid out in California statutes and also in the county code.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm hearing you say is that it's not in our purview to pursue a question on the 5-acre zoning, or it
No,
is?
I mean, the commission can review the historical record of, and to make recommendations based on, to hold public hearings and consider input from stakeholders, from the agricultural community, the real estate industry, the banking industry, all of the relevant factors that might come into play, and and then make a recommendation to the board. Ultimately, a general plan amendment, there is a process for initiating it in the county code, and it can come either from the board, the commission, or from individual landowners. So, or obviously through the initiative process.
Very good. Do we conclude this discussion? Do we have?
No.
No. It's just a discussion item for the commission. It's not, it doesn't have an item number for discussion.
I haven't heard you guys use the word easement, and how does that work into, because we have to have like property.
But she's going to speak anyway.
If you're going to be cutting down, zoning it down, and these people are going to be selling their 100 acres, and they're going to, where does this like property for easement that's mandated fall into? So I didn't hear that language from you guys.
Right.
It's just a discussion anyway.
It's just a
As
discussion.
to the chair, any item that is agendized is open for public comment.
Oh, very good.
So if there is public comment, then it's appropriate to receive it. I think we just did. So.
Okay. Yes, so corrected. Thank you.
But we have to be careful, because if we start rezoning a lot of the stuff, 5 acres, you can get loans. Anything over 5 acres, you have problem getting loans from banks. And you don't get a farm loan because it's too small. We have to, so if you start zoning everything 20 acres, it's going to be very hard for people to get loans.
Wait, for
you buy a home, you put
for
a
farmers to get loans.
No,
to have a residence.
For homeowners.
Homeowners.
Well, that's kind of the point.
Wait a minute, I've got to buy 5 acres before I can get a mortgage?
No. If you have a 5 acre and a home on it, you can get a mortgage easy.
Easier.
If you get 10 or 20 acres, you're going to have a difficulty getting loans.
Right.
And it's too small for farm loan, and it's not in the criteria of the banking industry to lend.
Wouldn't it be too small for a farm loan because you can't produce anything worth producing?
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
would be the
Yep.
point of increasing
So-
the minimum, is that you're not slicing and dicing up farmland so somebody can put their 6,000 square foot home in the middle and do nothing with it.
Mm-hmm.
So if they, go closer to the city.
Mm-hmm.
You can put something on a large lot, 10 or 12,000 acre lot in the city.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of, we have to, at some point, come to a realization that we cannot continue down this path, or we're going to be like our neighbors to the north, and then we're gonna be scratching our heads and cursing the people that were here before us because they didn't do anything to stop it. So I would just like us to have these conversations and think about what we're doing and what's going to happen in 50 years if we don't stop what we're doing. So either we allow people to take up 5 acres at a time until there's not a single piece left to produce agriculture, or we squish and increase the density.
I think we increase the density.
Yeah, I would too.
And leave the big farms
But
alone.
it's a discussion that we need to have, and even if it's painful or it's not politically expedient, I think we still need to have it. This board is not bent to political will. That's why it's a planning commission. We're not board of supervisors. We don't have to worry about those issues. That's up to them. But at least we can do is have the public forums and discussions, and then send it on to them. And if they choose to do something else, well, that's the way it goes.
She has a question.
Can I make
Yes.
public comment?
Yes, ma'am.
Do I need to stand?
Please.
Sure.
Okay. So I had discussions with the Agricultural Trust committee several months back, and land that they're looking to preserve, they're looking at 40-acre minimums. That's where they want to be able to put in those Williamson Act contracts. And then also, just so you a little bit of understand, anything that's under a Williamson Act contract currently, before it can even be a project that we accept at the county, it has to go through, it has to get approved by the Board of Supervisors, and the assessor's office has to approve that it's a compatible use under the Williamson contract. So there's all these extra steps before it'll even touch us, because they really are to preserve those easements. So anything that's under those easements is gonna make sure that it adheres to those things. So it isn't something that's just gonna come our way.
But you're not
You can
required,
just do whatever you want with.
if you've got 40 acres, you're not required to put it under the Williamson
No.
in protection.
Yeah, let's just clarify, it's not an easement, but it's a contract.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a contract,
Yeah.
yeah. And so it's more, you're not required to put, but the agricultural land trust isn't interested in preserving properties that are at minimum 40 acres. Because it doesn't, that isn't the goals of what, that committee is trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that clarifies.
There are a number of tools. There are a number of tools for agricultural land conservation. The Williamson Act is essentially a 10-year contract that rolls over. And in order to use it for non-agricultural use, you have to non-renew it and wait 9 years before you can do something else with it. A permanent, more permanent solution is an agricultural conservation easement, in which the development rights are acquired by a land trust, for example, and that's a permanent conservation measure for agricultural land. So there are a number of different tools available. One of the things that was also subject to the 2004 initiative, but is also appears in the county code, but I don't think has ever been implemented, is what's known as a transfer of development rights.
Credits, yeah.
And that's a market-based mechanism for preserving agricultural land, where in order to increase density in an area that you would want to allow to develop, you have to acquire development rights from land where you want to preserve. And that is a way of essentially establishing those conservation easements, funding those conservation easements through more intensive development in the areas that you target for development. So there are a number of different tools that can be used for agricultural land preservation.
And our general plan outlines a 1-to-1 ratio for those larger parcels. So if you're going to subdivide one of, prime soil agricultural lots, you have to then mitigate by preserving whatever 1 acre, you then preserve 1 acre at another location. So there's even measures built into our general plan to help preserve.
Yeah, mitigation.
Yeah, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Ariel. I'm glad you're awake over there and paying attention and deciding to speak up. Thank you. Is there further discussion?
Something hopefully will continue, perhaps not next month if staff doesn't have time, but somewhere down the road.
Yeah, it had been staff's intention to bring one of the 1-year annual updates, general plan progress, but we're going to wait for the March dust to settle and see some other things before we re-engage that, because we want to have a focused, productive time with you, and we'll see how some things play out.
Makes sense.
So with that, we have the newly, I don't know if you closed out the item, or it's not a motion or anything like that. basically acknowledge you're done, but the newly positioned commissioner comments.
Yeah, saved everybody some time. I'll go. I asked for some items to be included on this agenda, but they were missed.
Oh,
one of them was a conference in San Diego in April. I can't seem to find it right now on my phone, but I'll look on my computer and ask that you disseminate the information to
You'd
the
like
other
staff to go
commissioners.
to a conference in April?
No, you've had enough education. For the planning commissioners. And a second thing that I wanted to look at was the appeals fee. It's very, very low compared to the surrounding counties. And I think we need to take a look at adjusting it somewhere between Monterey and Santa Clara, perhaps $3,000 and $1,800 respectively, I believe. We're currently at $500 plus $100 per hour staff time, and I don't know what that means. But it's pretty low, I would think, compared to 3,000. So if that's something that we can get on the next agenda with the chair's consensus.
You know, it's just a point about, I think our fees are actually a little higher. I think it's about $1,500 for
Not what it
appeals,
says on the
but I'll look
schedule.
again. But, you know, it's that is a really interesting discussion that one can have as civic leaders. To have an appeal fee too high and unreachable, you disenfranchise people from maybe bringing meaningful discussions and questioning and, you know, having it vetted by a board of supervisors if they've disagreed with the planning commission determination. If it's too high, people won't put the money up and maybe you don't learn anything. If you put it too low, then people drop appeals on everything, obvious, you know, and everything slows down and nothing gets done. So, you know, and the irony of some of the coastal communities is you not only can appeal to the board, but you appeal to the coastal commission. And you can choose which one you appeal to, the board or and so sometimes in the coastal communities, the board will make the appeal fee in a coastal act 0 because they want to hear the appeal. They don't want the land use decision being made by the coastal commission. But as I saw in one of the Benito links, we're the only coastal county without a coast.
Oh, that's Marty.
Right now. But interesting, it's an interesting discussion between being too low and being too high, and trying to still assure that, you know, democratic practices are healthy.
Yeah. And then nobody wants to stop that, but you also don't want just petty appeals for this because it's cheap. So we have to rebalance the scale. Santa Barbara County is having issues with their outdoor cannabis because the appeals fee is $500. Well, guess what? There's very little outdoor cannabis because of that, because people just keep appealing, and eventually you'll just give up. So we have to watch that we don't fall into the same NIMBYism issue that they're suffering from.
I'm pretty sure the fee is $1,500 and that per hour might be an additional cost.
Okay, it needs to be adjusted, because I looked at it and said 500 plus 100 an hour. Maybe I missed a one somewhere, but I think you might want to look at the schedule that's on the county webpage.
We're $134 an hour now.
No, it was San Diego in April. I'll look again, I just couldn't find it.
I understand the surf is warm in April.
It's better in June.
Yeah.
And that was it for me.
I have one last one.
Yes, sir.
I won't be here next month, so. I will be in a meeting.
I thought your sentence was commuted.
No. I won't be in the next month's meeting.
Anybody else? Do we have a quorum problem or issue, or people
Hopefully nothing
forecasting
important comes up like
spring and
tonight.
summer travel? All right, staff has nothing further to add. Madam Chair, what's your pleasure?
Yes, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Beautiful.
Thank you, members of
All
the
right.
audience,
Hey, have fun.
for your persuasive argument.
I'll be.
Oh, have fun.
Look on your. It's getting closer.
It's getting
2
closer.
weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody feels like everybody has a chance. It's very
Okay.
very
There'll be
interesting.
2 runner-ups.